Last year, my wife and I were visiting Moab for the first time for us. And we were on the Devil's Garden Trail. I believe, yeah, Devil's Garden Trail. Highly recommend if you're in Moab, do that trail. It's not strenuous, it's just gorgeous. But anyway, on the trail is many arches, and one of the spectacular ones to see is landscape arch, not delicate arch, landscape arch. I keep thinking delicate arch because landscape arch is so thin and so long and spans such a huge distance that it just looks very delicate, like it'll break if you sneeze wrong. And now to see delicate arch, landscape arch, when you're on the Devil's Garden Trail, you kind of have to take a short trail to the side, just a little deadhead and back. But you can see delicate or landscape arch. Man, I keep confusing this. You can see landscape arch from the main trail, but you obviously see it way better from the little side trail. And we obviously did the side trail, and on our way back, I noticed these two hikers. They were slightly older than us, maybe in their late 50s perhaps, and they were fully kitted out. They had hiking poles, they had the camelback, and they had all the tech gear and the jacket and everything. When other people were just kind of hiking in shorts and t-shirts and sweaters and stuff. And they kind of stopped, they pulled out their phone, they took a quick picture, they put it back, and they were like, okay, we gotta go, and they're looking at their watch and stuff, and there was just this like anxious, like I need to finish this kind of, task type of energy I was getting from them. And they were gone, right? And it was not a very hard trail, it's not a long trail, it was not the end of the day when they had to finish. We did the trail and finished with plenty of sunlight left. So I saw that, and I realized this is something that All Trails kind of does, where you can record your trail on the All Trails app, and you can see how long somebody else did the trail in, and it becomes almost a competition, right? Like almost like a race with other people. In a way, I think it goes to the people's minds. And I realized the best parts about this trail were when you stopped and found a place that was like slightly off the trail to get a nice view, and you saw this amazing landscape around you that went forever, and it was something different every time you turned your eye. And I realized that I was judging these two people, and I don't know what their story is. Maybe they've done this multiple times. Maybe they were trying to meet somebody. Maybe they had another appointment somewhere else to go after the trail. I don't know their story. For all I know, they were just rushing for very good reason. But I was in my mind, I was judging them slightly. Yeah, because we are very slow trail walkers. We usually, if it's a 2-hour trail on All Trails app, we usually take 4 because we stop, we take pictures, we look at the birds and try to identify the trees and the plants and the leaves and so on, and look for little markings on the ground for the animals and so on. Anyway, we do all that stuff, and I think it's a wonderful way to go through a trail. But I found myself judging them a little bit, but then I realized that I'm kind of like them, because I have the kind of personality that wants to like get stuff done quickly. Like I want to have a list that is a big long list and it's mostly complete. Like I like completing things. I like seeing things completed, seeing those completed tasks kind of stack up and so on. And I realized that I would have been like them if I didn't have my wife with me, who's much more intuitive and more into nature, knows birds, all kinds of birds and bird names and bird calls and so on. And I wouldn't be as free and maybe relaxed on this trail if I wasn't with my wife. But I can be that task oriented. And I started realizing that that's a thing that I have, I guess, like by mistake, by fluke, cultivated in me, that I'm going to be slower on a trail. And I really enjoy, I love it that I've been able to get there. So that really got me thinking that I need to figure out ways to make the trails a little bit slower for me even more, because I really am maybe missing out still, like I think still in the back of my mind as we are stopping and going through a trail very slowly, I'm always thinking, all right, what is the next turn? When do we go back to the trailhead? What is the next thing? Can we finish in time? Can we do this? Can we do that? My brain is always like working on that schedule. And that's not a fun way to go through a trail. So, and there's some practicality to it. Obviously, there's some real, use. But what if it gets very dark and we don't have a way to get out of the trail, or we lose the trail or something like that? So there's some practical reasons to have that. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm saying like it shows up in my brain and takes up my attention when I really don't need to give it attention. So, that's been on my mind since this was last year. Then I read John Muir's My First Summer in the Sierras, and I realized he was not out on a hike for fun's sake. He was on a cattle trail, but he's being a naturalist. He wrote in his journal on the hikes, and he drew, I don't know if you can see this, but he drew these little sketches of the trees and everything. And I thought that's a great idea for me to try to do. So that's been kind of percolating in my brain since I read this book. When did I finish this? Back in June. And since then, my buddy Greg wrote to me, and we were talking about Moab again because he wanted to visit. And hey, Greg, thanks for watching my videos, and really appreciate all your letters. He wrote to me, and we were talking about trails, and he mentioned there's some river trail near where he lives, which has really calm spaces where you can kind of pull over and sit and do yoga or meditate or write in the journal, which he plans to do. And now that is another piece of, I guess, inspiration for me to say, you know what, I need to do this next time I go to Moab, which we are going to Moab again this year. We liked it so much. So Here's my plan, is that I'm going to try to really slow down when we go on trails this time, and even more than we do. And I'm going to try to take my long form journal with me. This is an A5 size hardcover notebook, and I'm going to keep my fountain pen with me, though I may switch to a pencil just for practicality's sake. And I'm going to make sure that when I sit down and when a certain view moves me or a piece of the trail moves me, that I'm going to find a place to sit down and write about it, even if it is a sentence, even if it is a short paragraph. I'm going to force myself to do that a little bit, because I think that's the little hack that I can have that makes me slow down, that builds in a delay, but a good delay, the good kind of delay, into my hiking schedule, that hopefully will keep me from, keep my brain from thinking, hey, we need to finish this trail quickly, which is what I have the propensity to do. So I'm going to take this with me. I'm going to put it in maybe like a freezer bag so it doesn't get wet if it rains or if I fall in water or something. And my bag's already a pretty small bag, but I will try to make room for this. The one thing though is I have another pen friend who is a wonderful artist, and she told me about how she will sometimes on a trail sketch what she's seeing. And I feel very inclined to do that, because even, John Muir did that in his book, in his notes. He sketched the landscape, and I feel pretty inclined to do that. However, I'm not very good at drawing, so this is where I can get into some frustration when I know that the skill needed to depict what I am seeing is far higher than the skill that I have, and that could get me very frustrated. So I'm toying with the idea, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I can just push myself and try to be easy about it and not like be really stressed about, oh, this thing looks like crap. So I might give it a shot, but I'm not good at drawing. So, and also, like, I know John Muir was trying to document what he was seeing for the first time. and really raise awareness and interest in the Sierras, ultimately leading to the Sierra Club and so on. So that's a little brain hack that I wanted to just share with you, that I'm hoping to try out this next time I go to Moab, or really to any hike, is I'm going to carry this journal with me, and really just sit down and force myself to write a little bit and force myself to slow down, almost like a hack that I'm gonna try to make myself do. I normally carry my field notes with me, and that just just in case my phone's not working, I can write down directions and things like that. And that's a good one too. And that's really what it's supposed to do, is stay in your back pocket. I put contact paper on the cover so it doesn't damage when it gets wet or torn or something. And I could also write down things here, but this is a lot easier to do, and I've done it in the past where I've just taken a few wrote a few words and that's it. I think the act of opening this book up and opening to a fresh page, and maybe even attempting to sketch something badly, if I can, that might be a better hack, I guess, to force myself to slow down in these cases. With this, if you've watched this far, thank you so much. Thanks for staying on with these ideas. All of this is really designed to, I guess what I'm talking about here is to ways to increase our focus, our attention, and therefore find our center in life. What I'm going to leave you with is a video of this little pinyon jay that we found when we just stopped at I believe it was the Double O Arch on the same trail, on the Devil's Garden Trail. It was a Double O Arch, and this little pinyon jay came by and started looking for food, basically, where we were sitting. And we stayed very still, and just other people came and went, and we just stayed there, and I took a bunch of videos of this little wonderful little bird. I'll leave you with that video now. Thank you for watching.